Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we are going to be talking about the calm before the storm. We are recording this on June 3rd in the evening. The Switch 2 is going to launch on the 5th, and that means, for me, 9 p.m. tomorrow. So, at GameStop, since I'm on the West Coast. So we're going to kind of talk about our plans for the Switch 2, what we're going to be doing, when we're expecting to be getting the system, what games we're getting, what peripherals we're getting, what we're not getting, what we're considering getting later, all that kind of details of what we're going to be doing for our Switch 2 launches when Switchmas Eve hits tomorrow and Switchmas hits the next day. So we're going to go over all of that. That's our main topic. In addition to that, we've got our On the Horizon segment, and we have a few news stories, trailers, and some stuff from the Netflix's Tudum event that we're going to go over as well. Mostly trailers, but there's some other kind of just random stuff in there too. But we're going to start things off with our On the Horizon segment. On the Horizon. On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so, and we've only got 4 things on our list this week. Starting off with Deep Cover, which is a movie that comes out on Amazon Prime on Thursday, June 12th. This stars Orlando Bloom, Bryce Dallas Howard, Sean Bean, Paddy Considine, Ian McShane, and it's basically about a bunch of improv actors that are recruited to go on an undercover operation or something against organized crime or something like that. But it's just a bunch of out-of-place improv actors that are having to be undercover. So comedy. Orlando Bloom is one of the improv actors I know. I think Sean Bean is the guy running the case, but it's Sean Bean, so his character will probably die.
Yeah.
You got Paddy Considine and Ian McShane are both in it. Paddy Considine from House of the Dragon. Ian McShane was in an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yes. They overhyped that, but yes.
But that's coming on Thursday, June 12th through Amazon Prime. Also on Thursday, June 12th, Revival is coming to SyFy, and then later in the month, on the 19th of June, it is also coming to Peacock. So this is a new series. I didn't know SyFy was making new series, but apparently they are. And it's adapted from an Image Comics. Have you ever heard of this? You're more into comics than I am. Have you ever heard of a comic from Image called Revival?
No. I haven't been paying attention to comics for when did this comic come out?
I have no idea. No. I know less about this than you probably know more about this just by knowing something of Image Comics than I do from the log line I read. Basically, this is a murder mystery set amidst the chaos of the dead returning to life. So the dead are coming back to life, but they're not like zombies. They're just returning back to life, and while that's happening, there's a murder mystery that's being pursued. So yeah, based on an Image Comics property and Revival to SyFy, and then later on Peacock. Peacock on the 19th, but on SyFy on June 12th. So I gotta wait a week to see it on Peacock. Then we've got the Unholy Trinity. This is a Western starring Pierce Brosnan and Samuel L. Jackson. I think it was in our trailer playlist once, but we didn't end up covering it. We didn't pick it, but I think it made it to our trailer playlist at one point. If you remember a Western with Samuel L. Jackson that wasn't Django Unchained. But yeah, that is coming on Friday, June 13th at theaters. Also coming on Friday, June 13th at theaters is How to Train Your Dragon, the live action version, which we did cover in a trailer segment, I think a month ago or something.
Right. Oh yeah.
But that is it for our On the Horizon segment. And now we're going to move on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment. We've got a few stories to go over, 3 stories in particular, and then we've got a few trailers and a few things that we're showing at Tudum, mostly trailers as well. But let's kick things off. Season 2 of The Sandman. It was announced that it was going to have 11 episodes. It's the final season. It's wrapping up with this one season. There's going to be 11 episodes, and it's coming fairly soon. And then they just announced that there's going to be a bonus 12th episode that comes a little bit later that's going to focus on the character of Death that we've already met in in the show, but we're going to, have an episode focused on that character that's going to kind of wrap things up. It's interesting because they did this before. In season 1, there was they had a bonus episode that they just dropped out of nowhere. It was in 2 parts. You remember, there was an animated one with cats, and then there was another one with a guy that was keeping a woman, a muse or something for a writer, and he was keeping her in poor conditions, and it turned out she was connected to Dream and stuff. But this is going to be a new one-off episode that's included in there. So that's that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Our next news story is that James Cameron has bought the rights to and is set to adapt Joe Abercrombie's The Devils. So if you don't know who Joe Abercrombie is, he's a fantasy writer. He's really popular in the grimdark genre of fantasy that's similar to Game of Thrones, like very brutal fantasy.
The co-founder of Abercrombie and Finch?
Yes, that too.
That's him. Yes. We did totally make that up.
He's kind of a really well-respected author within fantasy, and his stuff is it's fantasy, but it's very dark, very brutal, similar in that vein, like I said, to Game of Thrones or something.
Right.
This isn't Lord of the Rings style fantasy. This is Game of Thrones style
familiar with his work before the story came up, so I read the synopsis. Basically, it sounds really interesting. I was wow, okay.
Yeah, he does some good stuff. He does some interesting stuff. Also, the book that James Cameron cited in the article where he was talking about the book that he liked the most of his was also probably my favorite of his. It's called Best Served Cold, I think, or something, and it was a side story. It wasn't even part of the main series. It was just a side story, but it was really good. But yeah, Joe Abercrombie, very well respected. This series, The Devil, or this book series, the first book being The Devils, it's kind of an alternate history. It's as if the Crusades were, instead of being against Arab nations, it was against elves. And there's just monsters and stuff being employed against them. It's it's kind of interesting stuff. People compare it to Suicide Squad and stuff.
Interesting.
It's fantasy Suicide Squad.
Okay.
So James Cameron has, like I said, he's bought the rights to it for his production company, and he plans to write a script for it alongside Joe Abercrombie himself. He's planning on doing that after Avatar Fire and Ash is finished. He's also got that other project about the nuclear bombs in Japan that he's working on. So I don't know where that fits into the picture. You pointed out to me there is no commitment for him to direct this movie. It doesn't say he's not directing it, but it doesn't say he's directing it
yeah,
either,
I mean,
which just tells me it's just very early. It's just
it's early. He's co-writing the screenplay. Well, he's got a co-writing credit, right? Joe Abercrombie wrote the novel, obviously. He's adapting the screenplay from that novel. I think Joe Abercrombie obviously has input on that. So, Joe gets a co-writing credit, but
I think it might be more than that, because he said with Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I think he's going to be having him there. It's it's Cameron's project now. He owns the rights.
Yeah, he owns the rights. So all we know is Cameron is writing. He hasn't committed to directing. I mean, he has 5 million Avatar movies he's still making.
Plus, like I said, there's that movie about Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one? Do you remember hearing about that? That's the one
I remember hearing about that,
It's a true story about a guy who was actually survived both bombings.
Yeah, I remember that getting announced. So he's got a lot on his plate. So, who knows if he's going to end up being directing this? Because, remember, before the Avatar movies and stuff, James Cameron, for the longest time, was attached to direct Battle Angel Alita, and then he gave that to, Robert Rodriguez?
Yep.
So who knows?
I think the intention here is that he wants to direct it. It's just a matter of he's not committing to direct it. Because that was also with Battle Angel. The intention was for him to direct it, but he just wasn't able to ever do it. So it's going to be one of those things, if he can find the time in his schedule, but with how much shit he's got going on in his schedule, that might not be the case, but he's involved and his production company owns it, and he's actually going to be co-writing the script. So he's heavily involved in some way or another. But yeah, that's big news. And then the last piece of news we got before we get into the trailers and stuff is we're doing another This Week in Zaslav segment.
This actually doesn't have anything to do with any particular movie or television project or anything. Mm-hmm. This is kind of normally stuff that we wouldn't comment on because it's just boring business news. Mm-hmm. But I think this is pretty funny because it's Zaslav taking...
Because fuck Zaslav.
It's Zaslav taking admittedly a minor inconsequential L, but it's an L nonetheless.
Yes. So Warner Brother Discovery shareholders voted against a $52 million bonus package for Zaslav and other top executives at HBO Max and Warner Brothers Digital. This has been described as a symbolic rebuke. So it's not just them going, oh, this doesn't make sense, but there was like actual discussion going on where they wanted to kind of make their displeasure known.
Yes.
So yeah, that is good news to me. It doesn't really mean anything. He's probably still going to get the bonus because they don't have to basically follow that. It's like just a courtesy that they offer.
Yeah, it's just
we're offering you the courtesy to agree with us that we're giving ourselves this money, but we don't need you.
It's basically they're asking shareholders for their input. It's like a poll. Like, if your boss sent you like a survey or something, like, this is what we're considering doing for the company, and do you agree with it or not? It's not like if you say no, they're like, shit, we have to not do this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's basically the same thing.
But if they don't do it, it starts to look bad for them, so.
Right.
When they don't do it, hopefully it looks bad for them and maybe gets them into some other trouble. I don't know.
Zaslav's still getting this money, but it just shows that the shareholders are not super happy with Zaslav and his performance. So there is dissatisfaction among the shareholders.
Yeah, and we report this because we hate Zaslav.
I agree. He's been doing a pretty shitty job managing this company, so yes.
That is it for our regular news stories, and now we're going to move on to some trailers, starting off with Dexter Resurrection. So I haven't seen any of the Dexter spin-off series.
I have not either.
I've heard they look pretty bad. I've heard the one spin-off with Michael C. Hall was pretty bad. The one where he's younger, that doesn't have Michael C. Hall, where I guess Michael C. Hall narrates it.
I heard that one's better.
I've heard that too. That one's got Christian Slater in it. I know.
It's got Christian Slater. But I was like, watch this. This is like interesting. For backstory, I'm going to spoil the New Blood. I didn't watch New Blood.
Spoiler warning for Dexter New Blood. Okay, now you can go ahead.
I mean, I did say I'm going to spoil it. So.
Just got to make it official. I got to put in like nuclear siren sounds.
Yeah, nuclear siren sounds. Yeah, just skip over this like minute of the podcast. It ends with Dexter's son shooting him and apparently killing Dexter. Except now Resurrection shows that Dexter survives the shooting. Mm-hmm. He was like in a coma, and then he comes out of it.
Yeah. And I have to say this looks better than the other things looked. I like the way that he gets confronted by Batista and then just immediately like peace out.
Yeah, he just immediately peace out.
He's just like, well, off to New York.
After he realizes Batista knows a little more than what he would like him to know.
Yeah, that was funny. I thought that was kind of brought back some of the humor from Dexter there and that scene.
Yes.
And then it just looks interesting because it's got like a pretty stacked cast.
Yes, it does. Yeah. You got
Peter Dinklage,
Neil
Patrick Harris.
Yeah. It's kind of surprising, like, the big names they got for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw, like, David Dastmalchian in there.
Yeah, he was definitely there.
Kristen Ritter is in it. Uma Thurman. Neil Patrick Harris.
Eric Stonestreet, who was in Modern Family, is in it.
Yeah. It's interesting because, like, it's set up. Dexter, I guess, stumbles across this club for like, serial killers in New York City or something, where Peter Dinklage seems to be like the ringmaster of it.
It makes me think of, what was that episode of The Sandman where they go to the serial killer convention or whatever?
Oh yeah, the serial killer convention, yeah. Although this is more like a John Wick style setup, where like all these professional killers, this is like the central hub where they meet up or whatever. Suggested like, oh, these are all like the most dangerous serial killers in New York. And guess who Dexter is going to be hunting the entire season? So it's kind of like this setup of this competition or something.
Mm-hmm.
Where like we got all these big bads in one place now.
Yeah, like a survival game or something almost is what it kind of felt like to me. Like, is this going to be some kind of a game?
Yeah, it's just like
pitting them against each other, or
right? Yeah,
but yeah, that's gives Dexter lots of targets. I like that it's got like a little bit more humor to it in this.
Yes,
game, which I think was seemed to be missing from the
New Blood
or New Blood. Yeah. Yeah.
I think they're kind of like embracing the absurdity a little bit more with this. Like, so it seems like they're going in a different direction with this, which is probably for the best.
Yeah.
You know, try to switch up the formula.
Yeah, definitely. And it needs that drastically.
Yes, it does.
Because, like, the first 4 seasons of Dexter are good. Well, like, season 1 and season 4 are good, and season 2 and 3 are okay. Season 5 is, it's alright. And then the back half of Dexter sucks.
I did like season 2, like, at least the premise of where they switched it from Dexter hunting a serial killer to Dexter being on the run and being, like, in danger, real danger of being found out.
Yeah, like I said, season 2 and 3 are okay.
Yeah.
Season 1 and 4 are really good. And then after that, like, season 5 was, again, like, okay. And then it just slid really quickly, slid downhill after that. And then it looks like I said, neither of us have seen either of the continuation shows, but those look, at least the first one looked very bad. So.
Yeah, I heard it wasn't great.
Yeah, but, you know, maybe this will be good. Who knows? Then we also got a trailer for Gen V. So I've been interested in this for kind of like a morbid, I mean, I like Gen V first off, like right away, but I've had like a morbid curiosity about what they were going to do because one of the main cast members died in real life. And he was part of the cliffhanger, the ending for season 1. That's like, oh, look, he's isolated with the rest of these characters. And so like, how are they going to handle this? So they weren't going to recast him. So it's like, okay, what are you going to do here? How are you going to explain this? Because you can't show a scene to show what happens or anything, and you have to play around with what's tasteful to do. It looks like in the trailer, they kind of hint at what's going on, because they show his father the character's father being upset and wanting to like burn down.
Yeah. It seems like the way they're dealing with his death and like his absence sort of show is they're giving his father a bigger role in the story. Most likely what they did is they went back and they expanded his father's role, and obviously they have the storyline following where like his character in the story is dead, and so they're kind of like exploring that, which is interesting.
Yeah, I think his father was probably supposed to be dead when season 2 was starting.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like based on the way it was going in the show, like he had like a really bad heart attack, and he was like kind of on death's bed.
Yeah, they were probably planning on killing him off, you know, and having that be part of his son's storyline. And then real life tragically happened and plans had to change.
Yeah. So I imagine that's like probably a significant shift there.
Yes.
In the way they're going to tell that story. And other than that, I mean, it looks kind of cool. They got that one actor, I can't remember his name, who's playing the new Dean. He was the voice of in the new Batman animated series. Can't remember the actor's name, but he's joining on. He looks like an interesting character.
And watching the trailer, it very obviously takes place in the world that was set up at the end of the last season of The Boys. You know, where things were going. Now we're going to be in that world where, like, you have, like, Homelander basically in charge of the government as, like, this authoritarian force with the Supes basically oppressing humanity, you know, and you see some of that in the trailer too, where like they're back at the school, but the dean is like, well, you're training to be soldiers now.
Yeah, you're not students, you're soldiers. And he also makes a comment like, we bleed Vought blue.
Yes, yeah.
There seems to be like an anti-human sentiment going on.
Yeah, exactly. At that, so that's interesting.
Is this supposed to be coming before the new season of The Boys? Do you know?
Yes, yeah, this is coming this year. The next season of The Boys is coming next year.
Okay. So that was the original plan. I just wasn't sure if they were sticking with that with everything that went down. But yeah, so the way this season ended, or the first season of Gen V ended, like kind of set up some of the events for the new season of The Boys. And the way The Boys ended, now we're seeing in the trailer for Gen V that it's kind of following up the stuff that happened in The Boys, like you mentioned. And then this season should be ending with a big setup for what's going to be in the last season of The Boys.
Yes. They're doing this interesting thing with it where they're passing the baton.
Yeah, they're doing a little relay with it between the two. I like that. Honestly, like I mentioned when we talked about Gen V, I liked Gen V more than like the more recent seasons of The Boys.
Oh, same. I thought it was more solid. I hope it continues that tradition with season 2.
Yeah, it's really sad that Chance is gone.
Yes, it is.
One of the best characters in it, you know?
No, yeah. Like, I really, like, loved his character in the show. Like, it's such a tragedy that,
It was him and Emma the girl that shrinks. The two of them were like probably the best characters in the show.
Yeah, and it's a real tragedy that he's not going to be able to come back.
Yeah. Sad there, but it's looking good. I'm glad they're gonna, hopefully they do it tastefully, the way that they kind of present that story. I expect they will. But that's it for our regular trailers, and now we're gonna move on to Tudum. So Tudum, for anybody who doesn't know, is Netflix's kind of geeky, they have a few geeky events, so it's weird to say that, because they also have Geek Week and Sarah stuff, but Tudum is like their super cringy, like, live show they do.
Yeah,
like which is a few hours long,
which is not worth watching, to be honest. Like,
it's just super cringy.
Just watch the trailers for shows, because that's all you care about.
Yeah.
Right? Is trailers for their projects.
I watched it last year, and I was just cringing through, like, I think I broke like 7 teeth, cringing so much.
I don't know, like, why companies think that the stuff is exciting, like, people want to watch that.
Yeah.
Like, basically, they're just jerking themselves off.
Yeah.
Don't really care that much about it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and then this year I just said, I'm not watching it this year. I'm not going to tune in or anything. I'm just going to watch the trailers as they come out. So from that, we've got 3 trailers we're going to talk about. Well, 1 trailer, 1 date reveal with a little bit of footage, and 1 thing that's like a character reveal, not even really a trailer.
Yeah.
And we're going to start with that, which is One Piece. They kind of hinted at it. They had like a little preview scene that's like footage that's not even going to be in the show, I'm sure. Like, I seriously doubt it's in the show. That showed them all kind of like having a sleepover, like, movie night or something. And at the end of that little teaser for Tudum, they showed like little reindeer tracks going across the screen. It was like, oh, okay, so whatever they're going to show at Tudum is going to be Chopper related. It's going to be related to the character of Tony Chopper. And that's what we got. We didn't get a trailer or anything. We just got a character reveal. Like, it was all set up as if it was playing like live on the screen with the audience there. And then they added in like applause sounds and stuff like that. And it's basically Chopper being shy and hiding from the camera, and Luffy off screen, like, telling him to come out and introduce himself. And then you just kind of get to see a little bit of Chopper's character as it plays out. And I think they did a pretty good job of nailing Chopper's personality, which is that he's really shy, he's naive, he's absolutely adorable. That's always like a big part of the show, is that he's so adorable. And he has this like weird trait where when he's getting complimented, he'll like retaliate against and go like, oh, you jerks, like, you think I'm gonna like it if you say something nice about me? While he's like twiddling his leg around and obviously very much enjoying the attention.
Right.
And that aspect of his character is what they put a big focus on, that of like everybody, like they said, let's give him a round of applause, and everybody was cheering, and he did you jerks, you think I'd like it if you clap for me? I don't. And then he's like starts kind of dancing, and yeah, they kind of nailed it. It's just that cute aspect of the character and his kind of shy nervousness and stuff.
For this One Piece live action, it's been confirmed that Tony Chopper is being voiced by an actress named Michaela Hoover. I don't know much about her, but you will see her in James Gunn's upcoming Superman. She plays Cat Grant. Oh, she was also in Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy. All the Guardians. Oh, that's right.
She's a James Gunn alum.
So that's interesting.
Good enough for James Gunn, then she's good enough for One Piece.
She's good enough for One Piece. She's good enough for Tony Chopper, right?
Other things to say about Tony Chopper, besides like his personality and the stuff they showed there, what they also addressed in that clip is that he's like the doctor of the crew. He can also transform. Devil fruits are weird. That's like
devil
the power
fruits
system
are weird.
in One Piece is devil fruits, and there's different types of devil fruits. There's elemental ones, and there's ones where it's just like an abilities. Like most of the ones we've seen are just like straight abilities. They're not like, we haven't really gotten into the more complex devil fruits yet. One of the types of devil fruits is basically an animal type, and people who have the animal type one, they can take on like basically 3 different forms. They can take on the full animal form, their human form, which is kind of slightly influenced by the animal characteristics, and then they can kind of take on like a hybrid form that's like between the two.
Oh, interesting.
So what we're seeing is kind of, I think, like more the human form of Chopper, but Chopper isn't a human that ate the reindeer fruit. He's a reindeer that ate the human fruit.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he's got that kind of little adorable form that you saw. That's how you usually see him.
So Chopper is an animal. He's not a human that transformed into an animal.
He's an animal that transformed into a hybrid of a human, yeah.
Okay.
And he can take on kind of like a more deer-like form, and then he can take on like this like strong kind of like jumping form. But the interesting thing is we're introduced to that concept before we meet Chopper, of like how there's like 3 forms that people who have this kind of devil fruit taken on. But Chopper, being a doctor, created like a medicine, something called like a rumble ball, that allows him to take on like several other kind of hybrid versions of his form. And so when he fights in the show, he can take on like all sorts of different, he calls them like points, like it's like jump point or like strong point and stuff like that. And if he uses a rumble ball, he can like take these different forms. And yeah, so he's kind of this adorable guy. He can take on different forms, and he's a doctor. He's the doctor of the crew.
Oh, okay.
So that's one piece. Next, we got a thing for Stranger Things. This is like a date reveal. And at first I'm like, oh, they're just going to show a couple seconds of footage from the new season at the very beginning, and then it's all just clips from the past seasons.
Yeah, because they start with just a bunch of clips from the series so far, which is like not interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, look how far we come. And I'm like, yes, we know. Please
Then they reveal the release structure, which is unfortunately, again, they're
doing
milking
the
it out.
stupid thing. Yeah, they're kind of like stretching it out for no reason.
So we're getting the first part.
3 parts.
The first part's coming in like November, I think. The second part's on Christmas.
They're separated by a month. So the first part is November, second part's December, third part's New Year's.
Yeah, well, the third part I think is just the finale.
Okay.
So they're doing like, they're dividing the season into like 2 parts, and then the finale is like a third part. And the first part's coming in November, the second part's coming like on Christmas, I think, and then the third part is coming on New Year's Day. Like that's the finale. So we'll cover this sometime after New Year's Day, because we'll just watch it through. New Year's
Day.
But yeah, it looks pretty good from what we saw. The date thing's annoying. At least they're not really spreading it out, you know? It's only like a little bit apart, so it's not too bad. If you watched an episode a week, you'd just be able to just start when it starts and finish when it finishes, pretty much. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not too psyched about that split, but I think it looks good.
Yeah, no, it looks good. I mean, it's gonna be good. The last season was good. I have full confidence. It's just, I'm not going to believe that they're still in the 80s, though, with how much the kids have grown. They're like
Millie Bobby Brown's
now.
got like a walker.
Yeah, right. They're adults. The main kid was like 6 in 1983, and now he's 24, and they're going to be saying, this is 1987. It's like, F you. F you it is.
Yeah, Mike's going to have male pattern baldness.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem with the current. I'm kind of curious how they're going to handle that with the new Harry Potter series.
Same.
I think they're planning it so that they can just film it quickly, so that they can just kind of do a season every year like the way TV used to be.
Because Harry Potter's supposed to take place over the course of like 4 years, right?
7.
Like 7, okay.
Yeah.
I guess like British school is weird where people go to school for like 7 years.
So the magical school of Hogwarts is 7 years, and it starts when you're 11.
Okay.
Which is rough for filming because that's when kids grow up really fast, right?
Yes.
Right around then, you know?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So if you're not filming it kind of quickly, then it becomes a problem. So I'm kind of curious how they're going to handle that with it, because it became an issue for the movies.
Yes,
when they start taking a few years between, and it start getting like, okay, these characters, they were kids, they were growing up slowly, and now they're all of a sudden 10 years older or something.
That's the problem when you're doing these long-term projects with children.
Yeah, so I'm curious how they're going to do that with Harry Potter. At least with Stranger Things, it's the final season, and we already got that kind of shock of they look so much older last season. We were already kind of at that point, but now it's even further, so. But I think it looks good. The last trailer we got was for Frankenstein. This is the Guillermo del Toro version of Frankenstein, and it looks fantastic. It inspired me to think like, man, maybe it would have actually been good if they did that whole Dark Universe MCU type thing that Universal wanted to do. Of course, they didn't really start on the right foot for that.
I don't really know, because apparently Dracula Untold was supposed to be part of that, but that was certainly a movie that happened and it bombed. And The Mummy was supposed to be like the big thing because they got Tom Cruise for that.
It's so stupid though, because it's like, it was hardly even about a mummy. It was just another Tom Cruise like stunt vehicle, you know?
Yeah, there was like all kinds of like lore set up in that movie too. So I was like, yeah, it was supposed to be The Mummy with Tom Cruise, but there was lore set up because like they introduced the character who was supposed to be the head of this society that was keeping track of like all these monsters like Dracula and Frankenstein and stuff. And Tom Cruise's character was supposed to be recruited into that. And then that was supposed to spin off into the other like monster films.
Yeah. And the character was actually a werewolf, and his name was Mick Furry.
Yeah, then the Mummy bombed, and they kind of gave up on it. Although Dark Universe does live on, sorta, because like they got Dark Universe section at Universal theme park now.
At the Epic Universe.
At the Epic Universe, yeah.
Yeah, it kind of made me think, like, I don't think what Universal was doing was any good, but when I was watching this trailer, I just kept thinking, like, how it's just a beautiful, just striking, you know, the way it's shot. Just this gothic, striking imagery and stuff. And of course, it made me think of the recent Nosferatu film that Robert Eggers did, and it made me go, like, God, that would be the killer. That would be the killer. If they did that kind of a monster universe thing, but it was Nosferatu and Frankenstein, and then...
They did, like, actually good?
Yeah, just it got, like, really good directors. And I'm like, and they could just do it as a strategy to, like, release them all. Like, don't even actually connect them. Just make this focus of, we're gonna make really good monster movies with top-tier directors. You know, do the Wolfman with Denis Villeneuve or something.
Right. They do have, like, a Wolfman movie, like, out.
Yeah, like, that came out last year or something, yeah.
Came out this year.
Yeah, with Julia Garner? Yeah, from Ozark. I don't think that one fits as well, because what I'm saying is, like, the way they'd connect is just the fact that they're these very gothic settings, you know? So I'd like to see, like, a really gothic, like, Wolfman movie or something, you know, tied to that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of being only half serious. Like, I don't actually want them to do, like, a connected monster universe kind of thing. I just, like, really watching the Frankenstein trailer made me think of how good Nosferatu was and how good this one looks. And I was like, we need more of this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks good. I'm all down for Guillermo del Toro. His films are always interesting, visually striking. Oscar Isaac as Frankenstein is inspired casting.
Mm-hmm. Oscar Isaac's fantastic, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, no, I'm told 100% this is the best trailer of Tudum, in my opinion.
Yeah, but that is it for our news segment, and now we're going to move on to our final segment, which is our Switch 2 pre-release discussion and plans. This is our Switchmas special. So, as I mentioned before, we're recording this on June 3rd. I'm picking up my Switch tomorrow for the midnight release on June 4th. The official release is June 5th. You got yours coming in the mail. It should be to you in the morning by, 7 a.m. they said?
By 9 a.m.
9 a.m. on June 5th. Let's just start there, okay? Tell us, where did you order your Switch from? When did you order it? You got it on the pre-order
start night,
right?
Yeah, pre-order night. Walmart.com. So back in April 24th, I believe.
And what are you getting day one? Like, what's your launch lineup? Not just games, but peripherals, anything, accessories?
No peripherals. Day one, I plan to get Cyberpunk is on the way. Mario Kart World is on the way, that's for sure. So those are locked in. And then I plan to get or want to get Bravely Default, Street Fighter 6, the new Fast game, maybe Welcome Tour. I'm seeing some positive impressions from the event Nintendo held, apparently like yesterday or something, for journalists. They got to play just Mario Kart World and Welcome Tour from Nintendo for like about 7 hours or so.
Mm-hmm.
Event. So Nintendo held this event for journalists, and impressions have been coming out from that, which people know it's weird because like journalists will not have the Switch on launch day to review games, so they won't have access to the games.
They won't have one provided for them.
Right.
But most of them will probably be getting
once the Switches and they won't have Switches before the general public.
Yeah, they won't have review systems.
Yeah, which is like a first for Nintendo or basically anybody. So like there will not be reviews published on Thursday for the Switch system or any of its games. So like this is like a preview event. But the general impressions for Mario Kart World and Welcome Tour have been like very positive. Stephen Totilio, formerly of Kotaku, now runs his own Substack called GameFile, basically said like he stopped playing Mario Kart World to play more of Welcome Tour.
Mm-hmm. I did see one negative thing about Mario Kart World from from IGN UK, I believe.
I guess some people think the open world is a little underwhelming, which is fine, I guess. I don't know.
The funny thing is I read his comment, and like the select quote is, "From the half hour I played."
Oh, well, yeah, if you only played it for half an hour, then
yeah, exactly. It's
I'm not gonna take that seriously then.
Yeah.
From the half hour I played, okay, no, I'm not taking that seriously.
Yeah. I mean, he could be right.
He could be right, but
it's not, you're not an authority from a half hour,
yeah, that's not enough time to come to that conclusion.
Yeah, pretty much how I felt. That's the main thing I've seen. From Welcome Tour, I've seen some people saying it's kind of interesting, but it's not a major seller or anything. But, I mean, that was obvious. But it seems like there's some interesting, fun things to do in it.
There's some fun mini games. From what I understand, the mini games and stuff, it has like a lot of the WarioWare DNA, you know, and it's $10. I might actually pick that up for $10.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it should have been free, whatever. So there's that I'm considering, and I think that's basically everything.
So repeat again, what are your games you're getting?
Cyberpunk, Mario Kart World, Bravely Default, Street Fighter 6, Fast, maybe Welcome Tour. That's probably looking like my launch lineup.
Okay. So for me, you and I were chatting. We had just finished a podcast when the pre-orders went live, and we were both trying to get it. You ended up getting it kind of last minute from Walmart. I was not able to get it. We were both also on Nintendo's list for ordering it straight from Nintendo, but neither of us were going to give that up the chance on the hope that we'd get the invitation and just skip out on the thing. Neither of us were going to play that game. So I ended up going the next day, first thing in the morning, to GameStop, to a physical retail location, and I pre-ordered it and paid it outright just because, I don't know about you, but for me, I just need to, when I buy something, I hate that sensation of somebody like standing over your shoulder, you know, kind of thing. And when I pay something like I put a down on something, I feel like that. Like I feel like, okay, I have this unfinished thing and it's just sitting over my shoulder and I need to do it. And I'm just thinking about it constantly and it drives me nuts. So I went in to GameStop and I paid it out in full. I got my receipt, ready to go for the midnight launch tomorrow. And I was able to get a bundle. That's the other thing. You did not get the bundle. You got the one without the bundle because you want the physical copy of Mario Kart World. I got the bundle. I'm all digital. We're like opposites there. And at launch, what I plan to get is Mario Kart World, which is included with the bundle, but also I'm on the same boat as you with Welcome Tour, where it's like a big maybe for me. I'm probably going to get it. It's $10. I'm probably just going to get it. And then Fast Fusion is something I was kind of like, I wasn't sure if I was going to get it or not. And then I think that's 15. And I'm just like, yeah, I can do that. $15, I'll do that. And then Cyberpunk. So those are my games. And this will be me triple dipping for Cyberpunk because I played it and beat it on Stadia. And then I bought it on Steam after Stadia shut down. And I bought the DLC on Steam as well. And I started playing the DLC, but I don't like playing on PC. So I just didn't really get that far. So for me, and it's also anybody who played Cyberpunk when it first launched, it's a different game than what it ended up being around that time. So I just didn't even know what I was doing in the game anymore. So I'm taking this as an opportunity to start over fresh from the beginning. And then this will end up being my first real playthrough of the DLC and a second playthrough of the like full game.
Nice. Awesome.
So that's what I'm getting. I'm not getting any accessories or peripherals. I'm not getting an SD card for it. I'm not getting
I just don't feel
anything.
The need to like get any accessories at this point. Yeah, Pro Controller's cool, but you can still use the old Pro Controllers. The only difference is they don't have
C button,
the C button,
the back panels, and
the back panels, which is
the headphone port. Yeah, it's just kind of like
it's not those things like super big deal right now. I'll probably get one down the line, but it doesn't feel urgent.
And then this is the piece of advice I'll give to anybody when it comes to the SD card. Unless you need it day one, don't get it day one. SD prices go down drastically over time. The capacity goes up and the prices go down. Like every 6 months, the price is basically cut in half and like the newer, bigger ones come out. So don't get it until you need it. It's stupid to get it before you need it. Now, if you're buying like every single game game at launch digital right from the get-go, and you want to load all your games, and you just cannot deal with fridge management.
Yeah, exactly.
Then go ahead, get an SD card, but otherwise, don't, It doesn't make sense. Wait until you need it.
Yeah, exactly. You've got like 256 gigs of internal storage built into it. How many games are you downloading at launch?
Yeah. Some people will be like, but I have my entire Switch collection. It's like, yeah, but are you going to be playing all of those at launch? Just because you transferred your ownership over to that system for those games to be on it doesn't mean you have to immediately download every single one of those games.
Right.
You can do that later. Just do it over time.
And for me, like, I'm in the boat where I didn't heavily invest in SD card storage for the original Switch because I mostly leaned on my games being physical for that. So, like, I don't have that problem of, I want to download all my Switch 1 games too because they're on cartridge. So for me, like, I don't really need that SD card day one.
Yeah. For the original Switch, I think I waited a little bit until basically I was filling up storage and all the games I had were ones I didn't want to erase. Like I was still actively switching between them. And I kind of got to the point where I was almost filled up my storage and then I got an SD card, which is what I plan to do this time. I think it might take a little bit longer this time just because there's significantly more storage. The games are also bigger, but there's more storage. So I think I'm good there. And I'll wait a while until the prices come down, hopefully, or I just at a point where I need it, then I'll just get it. Pro controller, it's the same boat as you. I'm eventually going to get a pro controller, but right now it's like, it's expensive and I don't need it right now.
I mean, it's the thing, like, I would rather use that money to just get more games.
Yeah, exactly. Or like food.
or food, yeah. I mean, when it comes to a choice with like a pro controller with extra buttons and my current pro controller mostly works, or like getting Street Fighter 6, I'd probably rather just get Street Fighter.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't, some people are crazy with launches. Like, I'm getting a new system. That means I immediately need to buy 4 pro controllers, 4 sets of Joy-Con, the camera. It's just like every single thing that you could ever possibly use on it. And it's like right at launch. I have to get all of those. The other thing to pay attention to isn't just that you can kind of spread out the pain of that cost over time, but that sometimes you can get stuff cheaper. For example, I have a second dock for my Switch 1. I got that second dock, I don't know, like a year after the Switch was out, just because I wanted to be able to very quickly move from one TV to the other. And the only reason I got a second dock is, what was the dock? It was like $90, right? On the Switch 1? It was like,
I guess. Yeah, it was
really
expensive.
high. But I got my dock, and it's an official dock. It's official Nintendo dock. It's not like anything. I got it for like $60.
Yeah, I never bought a dock by itself.
But I think you have 2 anyways, right? Because you have
yes, I have 2 docks now because I upgraded to the Switch OLED from the original launch Switch. So I ended up with 2 docks anyway, which will probably happen again if they ever make a Switch 2 OLED. We'll have to see.
But that's the thing. The thing is, I got a second dock and I got it for like, a third off basically. And I waited till I saw a good deal. And then I was like, yeah, okay, $60. I can make $60 work. That's fine. But I wasn't going to fucking get one for like $90. Like I just wasn't going to do that.
No, same. I don't really have that huge of a need for like a second dock. I'm not sitting there going, okay, I have this TV and this TV and this TV and I need to like use my Switch on all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's for families that they have kids or whatever, and
I think there's some cases where that is the case. I think a lot of people, they feel this completionist urge. I just have to have everything now. And it's like, are you going to be using it all? It's like, no, but I'll eventually use it. And it's like, these aren't investments. I don't know. It's like when you buy a car and you drive it off the lot and it immediately loses a bunch of value, There are some investment type stuff in games for collections, where people get collectibles and stuff. But that's not the case with most of these people that are doing this. It's just like a kind of OCD-like tendency of, I have to have it all. And to me, it's like, a lot of times I see those same people complaining about the prices. And it's like, you're literally spending thousands at launch. Why are you doing that? Why would you do that to yourself? It's just, I don't know. I don't get it. I think I've seen people recommend that too, where they like, somebody will go like, I'm getting a Switch 2. Like, what should I get at launch? And everyone's like, well, you have to get 4 Pro controllers, 4 sets of Joy-Con, 4. And it's like, are you kidding me? Really? No, you don't need any of that.
Yeah, I'm not buying any of that. So yeah, just not the accessories this time. When I did get the original Switch, I did, and it was kind of like an impulse purchase.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at GameStop picking up my Switch, where I did buy a Pro controller, but I mean, that was also a situation where there was no regular controllers for the the Switch that I could just use. That was it.
If I impulse buy something, that would probably be it. Like when I'm at GameStop, I might end up grabbing a Pro Controller if there's one left when it's my turn, you know?
So also there was a lot less games I actually wanted at the Switch launch. It was basically
Breath of the Wild.
It was Zelda and then maybe Bomberman. I couldn't really think of anything else I was dying to get. It certainly wasn't one to Switch. So this time I have a lot more games I want to. So that's the other difference for this launch.
Yeah. But yeah, just, take my advice. Not you, Will. I mean, you already know, but anybody listening, I mean, by the time this podcast is up, the day will have already passed, I believe. But hopefully you guys kind of take that kind of advice, which is just get what you need and then fill out stuff as you go. If you need a Pro Controller, get a Pro Controller, but don't get 4 Pro Controllers right away before you even know if you have anybody to play with. If you got 3 siblings living with you, then yeah, maybe get 4 Pro Controllers. I don't know. But if you're just on your own or something and you're maybe a friend will come over, it's don't get 4 Pro Controllers, just get your one. And then if you get to the point where it's looking like you might need some more, then get them. It's just ridiculous the way some people just buy up everything. I think that's a bad move, a bad investment. So those are kind of our launch days, what we're planning on getting. So normally when we do a prediction thing, it's because a direct has been announced and we're making predictions specifically for that direct.
There's no direct, yeah. The Summer Games Fest.
Rumor.
Rumor about Nate the Hate kind of shot that down today. He said he hadn't heard of a imminent directs happening. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't matter because Nintendo, or Nintendo Switch 2, I guess, because that's the logo they use, is a partner, listed as a partner for this year's Summer Games Fest, which starts at the end of this week. So we might get some announcements and news from that regardless.
It's also worth noting, though, that Summer Games Fest also has a physical component to that event, where people can go and play games and stuff. And that could literally be it. That it's just they're going to do how they've been doing their Switch tour where they're touring around with the Switch 2 to different cities. They could literally just be opening that up.
It could just be it could just be oh, play the Switch 2 at Summer Games Fest.
Play the Switch 2 launch games that are already out,
Yeah, exactly.
Because, I mean, that's not far off. Nintendo's literally done that before.
That's probably the most likely thing. But we could also get announcements. And if we don't get any first-party announcements in the near future, maybe we're going to get some third-party game announcements.
I think it's likely we'll get some third-party game announcements. I think some are probably holding back for the next Nintendo Direct, whenever that is. But I think some would just announce on Summer Games Fest.
I'm confident if we don't get a Summer Direct, if we don't get a Direct this month or next month, I'm 95% we're going to get a September Direct. We're still going to get the traditional Fall Direct.
Yeah. So our predictions are a bit more vague. These aren't Summer Games Fest predictions. These aren't a June Direct ones. This is just basically near future predictions. Just a very vague near future predictions. So we're going to start off with third-party game ports. Now this is kind of the most likely that we would get at Summer Games Fest.
Yes. Third parties announcing their games, announcing the platforms that their games are coming to, and it's reasonable to assume some of these games are going to be announced for Switch 2, when they're announced.
Exactly. So start us off. Name your first game. Third-party game port.
My first third-party game port I predict is Assassin's Creed Shadows. We saw some leaks, some listings of a Switch 2 versions of Assassin's Creed Shadows. It makes sense for Ubisoft to port that.
Ubisoft is just Nintendo's boy.
Yeah, that's their big game. That's their big franchise. It makes sense for them to port that. Yeah, I think we can get that announced. Interesting, speaking of Ubisoft and game presentations and stuff, I saw today that Ubisoft, for the first time in forever, is not doing their own presentation this year. Mm-hmm. They'll be at the IGN Game Show and they'll be at Summer Games Fest, but they're not doing a Ubisoft Forward, so that's probably not getting announced today. That's probably going to get announced in a more low-key fashion.
Mm-hmm. That seems to be a better direction for Ubisoft right now. Their events haven't been that good. I think a lot of people have kind of gotten embittered towards the frequency of use of franchises from Ubisoft too. So it might make more sense for them to just kind of go into the background a little bit and just put their games forward. Mm-hmm. I think that might be at least for now, a better direction for them to go as far as promoting stuff. My first third-party game port prediction is something I predicted predicted for the Direct, the last Direct, the Switch 2 reveal Direct that didn't end up happening, and that is Metaphor. Refantasia.
Oh, that's a good one. I would like to see Sega and Atlas port that. That's for sure.
This was rumored, and I believe there is like a PS4 build of it as well. So
there is. Yeah, it came to PS4.
So it's something that it's not like a hard thing to do.
It's not stress testing the current gen consoles in any way.
Yeah. And those type of games do exceedingly well on at least the Switch 1, you know, like.
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of like niche, like JRPGs have done better on Switch than on any of the other systems this generation.
Oh, yeah. That's a slam dunk port for sure.
Yeah. I think we're for sure getting that. It's just, are we getting it soon? Or are we going to have to wait like a year or something? I think we're for sure getting it. Maybe we'll have to wait until they, you know, it's Atlas, and Atlas likes to do like new versions of the game with like additional content. Like instead of like releasing DLC, they make a version of the game that's got additional content built in and sell it at full price. That's kind of the Atlas game, you know, to do. They do that with Persona, like Persona 5. There's Persona 5 Royal. So we might be waiting till like whenever they do like an updated version of Metaphor, which I'm sure they'll do because it's Atlas. They always do that. And that might come with that, but who knows?
Yeah, that's true. It'll probably be the updated version of Metaphor. Yeah. So it probably won't be like base Metaphor.
Yeah. And then my next game, I'll go to that and then you can do your second game. And this isn't necessarily for me. This isn't a game that I like, but I think this is going to happen. And that's Resident Evil 4, the remake.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. Capcom could take some of those. I know Resident Evil 4, the remake, I think, unless I'm mistaken, that Resident Evil 4 remake was available on Switch 2 as a cloud-only version.
Well, I think that was maybe only in Japan, though. The cloud games for Switch 1 were a little weird like that. Like, certain games just didn't come here. And some that you wouldn't expect. Like, I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Oh, you know what? Okay. I found, like, Capcom has, like, a page dedicated to those versions. And weirdly enough, Resident Evil 4 didn't happen. It's Village, Resident Evil 7, Resident Evil 8, Resident Evil 2 Remake, and Resident Evil 3 Remake got cloud versions on Nintendo Switch. Mm-hmm. And they were all released in English.
I think if they're going to do it on Switch 2, though, instead of going back and doing them from the start, you know, like doing the first Resident Evil remake and then the second one, I think they're going to jump right to 4 because 4 has kind of a Nintendo thing to it. You know what I mean? Not the remake, but because Resident Evil 4 initially came out on GameCube. That was the launch system for that. And I think there's a tie to like Nintendo-ness in that game. So I think that being like the first Resident Evil game that shows up on the Switch, too, I think that makes sense from that perspective. I think it fits that. What is your second pick?
My second pick, and it's funny because like we're like almost on the same page here. My second pick is Resident Evil 9. Okay. Now this is a game that has
this isn't announced yet. Yeah. So
yeah, this isn't announced yet. But there was a rumor that came out that it's getting announced this week as part of Summer Games Fest. Leaker came out with that, and Nate the Hate corroborated that leaker, and he said he heard the same thing. And so that's getting announced, and I bet that announcement is going to come with a Switch 2 version the day of the announcement.
That very well could. And that would be, of the games we've mentioned so far, of the 4 games we've mentioned so far, that would be the first one that's newly coming out as like a multi-plat rather than as like a port specifically.
Yes.
So that's eventually going to happen, but with like a lot of other games. But right now, we've mostly been seeing ports. You know, we haven't seen a lot of like, oh, then it's also coming out for Switch on day and date, you know? So it would be really cool to get that soon, to get to that point where we're actually getting day and date multi-plats rather than just like year late ports.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like that's what I'm really looking for with this system now.
But you have other systems. So.
Right. Oh yeah, but I'm really looking forward to like the key indicator of enthusiasm for the system is our new games going forward going to be announced with a Switch 2 version up top? Or are we just going to keep seeing recycled back catalog content being pushed to the Switch 2? And I think we gotta start seeing like games being announced with the Switch 2 version already in mind.
Yeah.
And I think this is a good one for Capcom to start with.
So I was going to have you do your last one of the third party parts next, but I think mind theme thematically ties into what you're talking about there, so I'm going to jump into mine.
Okay.
Which is, I think we're going to get Call of Duty.
That was mine. That was my last one too.
All right, there we go.
So we're both there. Yeah, the new Call of Duty Black Ops. Again, remember, Microsoft is contractually obligated to bring Call of Duty to Nintendo consoles with parity to the other versions, so it can't be like this weird different version of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they ever specified when this starts or anything.
It's weird to say
like a
this.
10-year contract.
It's weird to even say this, and it's also weird that this happened, but it's weird to say that we didn't get any Microsoft stuff at the Nintendo Switch 2 reveal.
No, we didn't.
It's weird to even say that, as if that's something that's expected. But it is expected, which is like another weird thing, you know?
Yeah, it's another weird thing.
It's like, it's a Russian doll of weird.
But we know Call of Duty is coming at some point, and like it feels like it might as well start this year with the new game. Again, Microsoft is having their Xbox Game Showcase, I believe, like this or next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And, where they're going to talk about their games. And that's probably where Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to get heavily featured. And they're probably going to announce it for Switch 2.
So quick aside, because I mentioned this is like outside of our regular predictions, but just like a quick thing. As I mentioned, it's so weird that now we're saying it's weird that we didn't get a Microsoft reveal or something. Like, we're like 5 years ago, us saying that would have been weird. So the quick aside, what one Microsoft-owned property now, more than anything, would you want to see on Switch 2?
What Microsoft property game would I most want to see on Switch 2?
Yeah.
Out of all the IPs that they own?
All the stuff they've bought, yeah. All the stuff they bought or made.
Banjo-Kazooie.
Banjo-Kazooie?
Yes.
For me, it's Lost Odyssey.
Okay.
I've never got to play that game, and I've wanted to forever, and they haven't done anything with it. I don't think it's ever going to happen, unfortunately.
I don't think I think that's a dead franchise.
But if there's one I could pick, if I could just go in there and go like, okay,
I mean,
every other
Banjo-Kazooie
plan
is dead too, so like,
yeah, if I could cash it in, like say, like every other thing that Microsoft makes that would have come to Switch 2 isn't coming out, but you can get Lost Odyssey in place of all of those combined, I would do that deal.
Right.
Nobody would agree with me, but I would.
At this point, I would just like to see a Rare Replay ported to Switch.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are expecting Halo to eventually, like the Halo collection.
Yep, the Master Chief Collection has been heavily rumored. I can see that happening.
Mm-hmm. Plus, there was, when they started bringing all those games to both Switch and PlayStation, there were some that were not coming to Switch because it couldn't handle them.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves didn't come to Switch, and Hi-Fi Rush didn't come to Switch.
Yeah. Like
Out of the initial Phil Spencer, it's just 4 games, not Indiana Jones, not Starfield. Indiana Jones came to PS5.
Yeah.
It wasn't just 4 games.
Yeah. So it's, now, what's the situation with Hi-Fi Rush? Because that studio was sold. Are they hold the rights to that now, or is Microsoft?
Yes. No. Microsoft gave up the rights to Hi-Fi Rush.
Okay.
Tango Gameworks is under new ownership with the Hi-Fi Rush IP. They are going to be working on a sequel to Hi-Fi Rush. So they own that IP, so it's out of Microsoft's hands now. So if there's going to be like any new ports of Hi-Fi Rush, it's going to be from their new owners.
Well, let's hope for that. That would be a good game that would make sense for a Nintendo system.
Yes.
First party games. We're not doing 3 for this. We're just doing 1. So what one first party game do you think that we're going to see reveal? What's your prediction for a first party Nintendo game?
Fire Emblem.
Fire Emblem. Yep. That's been rumored.
Genealogy of the Holy War remake.
Yep. That's been rumored. That's definitely one. I'm doing another carryover from my Switch 2 Direct predictions. And I'm going to say Monolith Soft's next game, which I do not think is a Xeno game. I think it's their new IP.
I think it's a new IP, yeah. But I also think it's still a little early to see that. We'll see.
I don't think it'll be at Summer Game Fest, but I think might be this year.
Could be.
At the next big Nintendo Direct, whenever that is, whether it's like fall or whatever, Then we have our last category, which is NSO GameCube games. So they announced NSO GameCube games were getting 3 at launch. They showed a slew of other titles that are going to be coming at some later point. But we know from experience that the games they throw in that little reel aren't necessarily like the next games coming.
Well, yeah, but I quickly want to go down to what is coming and what's been announced, because these are not going to be our predictions. These have already been announced. And so to set that expectation, on launch day, we are getting Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, F-Zero GX, and Soul Calibur 2. And then they have officially announced the upcoming games are Super Mario Sunshine, Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, Super Mario Strikers, Chibi Robo, Luigi's Mansion, and Pokemon Coliseum. So all those games are off the table because we know about them.
It's also, it's interesting because, as I was saying, like sometimes I think they've done this with past systems where they've shown, okay, these are the ones that are coming day one, and these are some other games that are also coming.
These are games that, like,
you don't necessarily get all of those games and then get more games. Like sometimes other games come out before some of those do.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of like, this is what we're thinking of.
Because I saw people, I watched a lot of direct reactions for that direct, and there were a bunch of people going like, I can't believe this game's not coming. And it's like, no, they just haven't announced that it's coming.
That's not the full list of like every game that's ever coming out to the system.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even necessarily the list of the first groups of games that are coming. Like, so there could be the second wave of games that include something that wasn't in there, you know?
Nintendo is so weird about the releases on the service. But anyway.
Alright, so I'll start with my first pick, and that is Eternal Darkness.
Oh, that was my first pick. Twins, yep. I mean, that was like a wonderful survival horror game. Had a neat gimmick, but also had like a really interesting storyline.
Nintendo has the rights for that, right?
Yes. As far as I know, Nintendo fully owns the IP. The biggest tip-off to that, too, is when Dennis Dyack ran that Kickstarter. Remember?
Yeah. There's like a spiritual successor with the
Shadows of the Eternals.
Yeah, and that got shut down because somebody at their staff that was like their keeper of lore turned out to be like a pedophile.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I heard about that, yeah. No, it was shut down because it failed to meet its funding goal. Like,
that news story came out when it had just started that Kickstarter. Everybody bounced.
But yeah, it never got funded. I pitched into that Kickstarter, but like, even I knew, like, yeah, this ain't happening. But Shadows of the Eternal, I feel like if he owned the Eternal Darkness IP, he would just kickstarted Eternal Darkness 2 instead of trying to make it, a spiritual successor to Eternal Darkness. So yeah, I'm confident Nintendo owns this, and they can put it on NSO online anytime they want.
Yep, so that was our matching first pick. What's your second pick?
My second pick is going to be Wildcard, bitches. I'm going Star Fox Adventures, because why not? Yeah, why not?
They own the rights to that, so Star Fox is theirs.
They own the right to Star Fox. Any part of that like Rare owns, like obviously they got Rare games.
It'd be the first time that game ran above like 10 frames a second, so that would be good too.
Obviously, they got like a bunch of Rare games on N64 NSO Online. They have like pretty much like almost all of them at this point. So why not get the final? Well, I guess not the final, because like Rare did make games for GBA, but like the final Nintendo published Rare game. Why not get that on NSO?
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, we know that not all of the games that come to these, and Soul Calibur 2 is a perfect example of this, are actually published by Nintendo.
No,
they don't just do that. They get third-party games too. And so my second pick is a third-party game, and it's a bit of a deep cut. It was a promising franchise that got, I think, like 2 or 3 entries.
It's just like with GameCube and stuff. I don't think about third-party games like a lot.
This is a promising franchise. I think it only got like 2 or 3 entries, and I think one was like on DS or something. And this was part of the Capcom 5.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm saying Beautiful Joe.
That would be amazing. Yes, I would be all for that.
I think it's about time. I think that whole franchise should come back, you know?
It should, yeah. And I think we're starting to see Capcom be more open to that, because they announced a new Okami after ages. They announced a new Onimusha, so it looks like, Capcom is like now more willing to go back and resurrect their back catalog
PS2,
franchises.
Years.
Yeah, exactly. Which is like what people have been wanting to do to them. And like people pointed out the success that they're having with Monster Hunter and with Resident Evil and like their marquee games is kind of letting them go back and like explore these older franchises, taking more risk with that. And so
Capcom kind of works in waves, because when Resident Evil kind of took over the company and then Monster Hunter kind of joined them as like those are the marquee titles. If you remember in the early days of those two franchises, Street Fighter kind of just disappeared.
Yes.
And now Street Fighter's back with like a vengeance. And it's brought all their fighting games back with it. They brought in all these fighting collections and new games and like all these different, they've done so much with like these fighting games that just seem to have just gone away. at one point. And then they all came back. And it's weird to think about it now. Like now we look at it and go like, well, yeah, obviously Street Fighter's one of the big ones. But there was a gap. There was like a stretch of time where that like franchise was basically dead. And not so anymore. So yeah, I think it's a good time to kind of test the waters with some of these other franchises and see if ones can come back. And Beautiful Joe is a good candidate there. What is your second pick?
Well, this would be my third pick. Yeah, my third pick is Metroid Prime 2, Echoes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are holding out for an HD remaster, but I think that you don't really need that. I don't think there was any intention to do that. I think the rumors of them doing an HD collection were blown out of the water when they released the first one.
The Nintendo rep, you know, and you can take this how you want. You can say, oh, it's a rep, you know, they're just, but whatever. Take it however you want. But Nintendo rep did say regarding Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, because Wind Waker is a launch title for the GameCube service here, did say regarding the HD versions of Wind Waker, like this doesn't necessarily preclude them porting those versions to Switch too. This is a game on the service.
Mm-hmm.
So people shouldn't get in that mindset of these things are mutually exclusive. Like there could still be a Metroid Prime 2 remaster, even if they put Echoes on the service.
I'm just saying that it became clear when they announced the remaster of Metroid Prime 1 and how involved of a remaster it was. It became clear that all those rumors about a Metroid Prime Trilogy HD version were just nonsense. And over the years when they haven't released a second one or whatever, it also became clear they weren't going through and remastering all three. They just remastered the first one while they were working on 4.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like they're getting their engine up and running and they just decided to remake it as they were doing that, or remaster it as they were doing that. And they didn't do work on 2. That doesn't mean they won't do work on 2, but then they shifted priorities to 4, and 4 is not even out yet. So we still got that coming. So yeah, I kind of agree. It makes more sense if we're going to see it soon, and there still isn't even a release date yet for Metroid Prime 4. So I could very well think that we could get this before Metroid Prime 4 comes out.
Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is like 2025 still, which is interesting because they just recently gave a release date for Pokemon Legends EA. That's October. So it definitely making me think Metroid Prime 4 is either November or December at this point, because with that still not having a date.
We got Bonanza in July.
They're not releasing it the same month as Pokemon, obviously. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's going to be like one of the last games to come out of this year.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, this is the kind of game that I could also see them releasing in December.
Yeah.
That's like, they've done that with like, say, like Pikmin or something, you know, where
it's going to be a December game.
Yeah. People think November, they think anything past that's too late and stuff, but there are
Nintendo releases games in December.
Niche franchises that Nintendo will release in December, and I don't think of it as that, but Nintendo thinks of it as that.
Right. I mean, the Metroid series historically hasn't sold as well as like their best-selling games.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like the biggest Nintendo franchise. It's something that gets the enthusiasts excited, but does it excite the family shoppers? I don't know. So I gotta think like Nintendo has something up their sleeve for November for that audience.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have no idea what it could be.
I could totally see them
the Mario game.
I could totally see them doing like a fall Nintendo Direct.
Yeah.
And in it,
they are 100% doing a fall Nintendo Direct.
Yeah, but what I mean is like in that, I could see them announcing Metroid Prime 2 as like a shadow drop on Nintendo's on GameCube Online, and then also announcing the release date for Metroid Prime 4 like right after that. You know?
Oh yeah, they're definitely gonna
like you can play Metroid Prime 2 later today.
We're definitely we're definitely getting like a release date for Metroid Prime 4 by the time fall rolls around. Yeah, for sure. What's your third pick?
My third pick goes along with my third-party game ports thing, which is one of my third-party game ports.
Hung up on these third-party games.
Was Resident Evil 4, and my NSO GameCube third pick is Resident Evil 4.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, I'd play.
And I could see the synergy of doing that similarly too, of going like announcing Resident Evil 4, the remake for Switch 2, and then right after that saying, and later today you can play Resident Evil 4, the original version on on NSO GameCube.
There you go.
So yeah, I could totally see that happening. So that's my third pick for NSO GameCube games.
Nice.
But that is it. That's our calm before the storm coverage of the Switch 2 pre-launch. Obviously, next week is going to be our first impressions of the Switch 2. We're going to be talking about the games we got and what we think of the games we got and how everything's going with our Switch 2 experiences. If we have Joy-Con drift already.
Yep. The Joy-Cons are drifting out of control.
They've joined a street racing scene and they're just drifting all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
Mine turned into Vin Diesel. Didn't even know that was possible.
Start talking about family.
Yeah. You don't do that to family. So that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We're returning to recording on Wednesday next week. Again, the only reason we're recording a day early today is because of the Switch launch tomorrow. For me, I need
because you have to be there at midnight.
Yeah.
Yes. And thankfully I get to just relax and let it come to me Thursday morning.
Gotta come to Papa.
Come to Papa, yes.
But yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We're going to be continuing our Switch 2 coverage by talking about our first impressions, what we think of the hardware, what we think of the software, what we've been playing, and what's going on there. So look forward to that next week. Until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up a container store for any of our podcast episodes and scroll down to the bottom paragraph, you'll find all the relevant links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, all that stuff's there, all of our social accounts. It's all there. So you can check that out there. You can also subscribe to our podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice like Apple Podcast or Pocket Cast. And the entire backlog of our podcast, as well as additional content, is also available on our YouTube channel, which again, you can get to by going to our website, thetotalscreen.com, opening up a container store to a podcast episode, scrolling down to the bottom paragraph and finding that YouTube link. And then you can get all of that content there, including old stuff from when we were a different website and we did impressions of Game of Thrones episodes if you want to. I challenge you to do that. All that stuff is there as well, so check that out. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.